The stars disappeared first. That was what people on Earth noticed when they looked up at the night sky. Where there should have been thousands of twinkling lights, there was now only darkness. Something massive had blocked them out. Within minutes, every screen on Earth flickered to life with the same message, broadcast in perfect Korean, English, Mandarin, and every other human language simultaneously. A face appeared. It was not human. The creature had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, skin that shimmered like oil on water, and a mouth that seemed too wide for its narrow face. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority. People of Earth, I am Supreme Overlord Thane of the Empire. Your planet is now surrounded by 12,000 warships. We have watched your primitive civilization and decided that you will join our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender all military forces, dismantle your governments, and prepare for integration. Resistance is futile. We have conquered 47 worlds before yours. All of them chose survival over pointless defiance. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Across Earth, there was silence for exactly 3 seconds. Then the chaos began. People ran into the streets, pointing at the sky. News channels exploded with speculation. Scientists confirmed what everyone feared. The sensors were not lying. There were exactly 12,000 alien warships in orbit, each one larger than Earth's biggest aircraft carriers. In the command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral stood before a wall of screens showing the alien fleet. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen 3 previous wars. Around him, junior officers frantically worked their stations, pulling up data, running calculations, and trying to make sense of the impossible situation. "Sir, we have confirmation," Captain said, her voice tight. 12,000 vessels. Their smallest ships are twice the size of our largest destroyers. Their weapons output is beyond anything we can match. Current estimates say they could glass the entire planet in under 6 hours if they wanted to. Nodded slowly. He had expected the numbers to be bad. This was worse. Earth's entire military fleet consisted of 200 ships, most of them designed for patrol duty and small conflicts. They had never been built to fight an interstellar empire. He looked around the room at the young faces staring at him, waiting for orders, waiting for hope. "Get me a channel to that alien commander," said quietly. Sir blinked. "You want to negotiate terms?" "No, I want to give him our answer." 5 minutes later, the channel opened. Supreme Overlord Thane's face appeared on the main screen, his 4 eyes narrowing in what might have been curiosity. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship was visible, filled with alien crew members working at stations that glowed with strange symbols. "You wish to discuss surrender terms?" Thane asked. His voice carried amusement. "You are wise. I will be generous to a species that knows when it is defeated." Stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back. He wore his full military uniform, every medal earned in 30 years of service displayed on his chest. When he spoke, his voice was clear and steady. "Supreme Overlord Thane, I am Admiral of Earth Defense Command. I have reviewed your ultimatum. On behalf of humanity, I must respectfully decline." The alien's 4 eyes widened. Around him, his crew members stopped working and turned to stare at the screen. For a long moment, there was complete silence. Then Thane leaned forward, his wide mouth pulling into what might have been a smile. "You decline." The amusement in his voice had vanished. "Perhaps you do not understand your situation. I have 12,000 warships. You have barely 200. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. Your people have never fought a war beyond your own solar system. I can destroy your entire civilization before your sun sets tomorrow. And you decline." "Yes," said simply. "You may have 12,000 warships, Supreme Overlord, but you have never fought humans before. We do not surrender. Not to you. Not to anyone. If you want Earth, you will have to take it. And I promise you it will cost you everything." Thane stared at him. The alien commander seemed genuinely confused, as if had just spoken in a language his translator could not process. Around the command center, every human officer had stopped working to watch the exchange. Some looked terrified, others looked defiant. All of them waited. "You are making a mistake," Thane said slowly. "I have conquered 47 worlds. Every species that faced my fleet chose survival. They calculated the odds and realized that resistance meant extinction. They are alive today because they were rational. Are humans not rational creatures?" Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had made his choice and would not change his mind. "Humans are many things, Supreme Overlord. We are creative, we are stubborn, we are violent when cornered, but rational, maybe not always. You see, humans have a saying, it is better to die on your feet than live on your knees. We would rather burn our own world to ashes than hand it over to conquerors. So here is my counteroffer. Leave now. Go back to your empire. Find another planet to threat. Because if you attack us, we will make you regret ever finding Earth." Thane's 4 eyes narrowed to slits. When he spoke again, his voice was cold. "You have 72 hours. I am extending it to 96 hours as a gesture of mercy. Use that time to reconsider. Use it to explain to your people what their pride will cost them. When I return, I expect your surrender. If I do not receive it, I will show you what happens to species that choose extinction over wisdom." The transmission cut out. The screen went black. In the command center, nobody moved. Then turned to, her face pale. "Sir, what do we do now?" Walked to the window overlooking the operations floor. Below him, hundreds of officers and technicians were already mobilizing, pulling up defensive plans, coordinating with military bases around the world, preparing for war. He could see the determination on their faces. They were scared. They should be scared, but they were not running. They were not hiding. They were humans, and humans did not kneel. "Now," said quietly, "now we show them what happens when you threaten Earth. Get me commander at the moon base. And send a message to every ship, every soldier, every citizen on this planet. Tell them we have 4 days to prepare. Tell them we are going to war. And tell them that when the history books are written, humanity will be remembered as the species that said no to 12,000 warships and meant it." Around him, the command center erupted into controlled chaos as Earth prepared for the fight of its existence. Captain stood on the observation deck of Moon Base Alpha and watched the alien fleet through the reinforced windows. From here, the warships looked like a swarm of metal insects, their hulls reflecting Earth's blue light. He had been stationed on the moon for 6 years, commanding a small defense squadron tasked with protecting mining operations and research facilities. His forces consisted of 15 ships. 8 were modified civilian freighters equipped with military-grade weapons. 7 were actual military escorts, fast and maneuverable but lightly armored. 15 ships. He was supposed to defend the moon with 15 ships against an enemy that had 12,000. "Sir, we are receiving new orders from Admiral," Lieutenant said, walking up behind him. She was young, barely 25, with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She handed him a data pad. Read the orders twice, then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. "The Admiral wants us to hold the line," he said quietly. "He knows we cannot win, but he wants us to make them bleed." Nodded. She had read the same orders. "How long do you think we have?" The alien commander gave Earth 96 hours, but he will not wait that long. He will want to make a statement. He will want to show Earth what happens when you refuse his offer. Turned away from the window and faced his crew. "He will come for us first. The moon is the closest target. Destroying us will be easy. It will be his warning shot." "Then we make sure it is not easy," said firmly. Looked at her. Then he looked at the rest of his command crew. They were all young. Most of them had never seen real combat. They had trained for pirates and small conflicts, not for war against an alien empire. But every single one of them stood straight, their faces determined. They knew they were going to die. They had accepted it. Now they only cared about how they would die. "Listen up," said his voice carrying across the bridge. They think they can scare Earth by destroying us. They think we will roll over like the other 47 species they conquered. They are wrong. We are going to teach them something about humans. We do not surrender. We do not run. And when we die, we take as many of them with us as possible. Admiral is watching. Earth is watching. The entire human race is watching. Let us show them what Moon Base Alpha is made of. The crew erupted in cheers. They were terrified, but they were also proud. They were going to die defending their species, and there was honor in that. 2 hours later, the sensors detected movement in the fleet. 500 warships broke formation and began moving toward the moon. They came slowly, in perfect formation, like they were on parade. There was no hurry. Why would there be? They outnumbered Squadron 33 to 1. All ships, this is Captain, he broadcast to his squadron. Enemy approaching. You know the plan, make every shot count. If your ship is damaged beyond repair, ram the nearest enemy vessel. We are not here to survive. We are here to hurt them. Good luck. It has been an honor serving with you. The 15 human ships launched from Moon Base Alpha. They spread out, using the moon's craters and mountains as cover. The warships continued their approach, not even bothering to take evasive action. To them, this was not a battle. It was an execution. That confidence cost them. Ship, the Defiant, fired first. A rail-gun round traveled at a fraction of the speed of light and punched straight through the shields of a destroyer. The alien ship exploded in a ball of flame and debris. Before the enemy could react, the other 14 human ships opened fire. They aimed for weak points that human engineers had identified by studying the alien vessels through telescopes. They aimed for engine clusters and weapons arrays and command bridges. In the first 30 seconds, 23 warships were destroyed. The alien fleet finally reacted. Their ships broke formation and began returning fire. The space around the moon lit up with energy beams and missiles. Piloted the Defiant through the chaos, dodging and weaving between enemy fire. His crew worked frantically, firing weapons, rerouting power, keeping the shields online for as long as possible. Enemy destroyer on our tail, called out. I cannot shake him. Do not shake him, said calmly. Bring him closer. Understood immediately. She adjusted their course, leading the pursuing ship directly into the path of an asteroid. At the last second, she pulled up hard. The Defiant scraped over the asteroid's surface, its shields flaring from the impact. The destroyer, moving too fast to adjust, slammed into the asteroid at full speed. It crumpled like paper. One by one, the human ships fell. The freighter Horizon took heavy fire protecting a damaged escort. Its captain, commander, kept firing until his ship's reactor went critical. The explosion took out 4 more vessels. The escort Valiant rammed an alien battleship at maximum acceleration, its captain screaming defiance over the open channel until the transmission cut to static. Watched his squadron die around him. Each death bought time. Each death took enemy ships with it. They had stopped advancing. They were now fighting defensively, trying to avoid the suicidal human attacks. They had never encountered an enemy that fought like this. Sir, we have lost all other ships, reported. Her voice was steady despite the tears on her face. We are the last one left, shields at 15%, weapons offline, life support failing. Looked at his crew. They had fought well. They had done everything he asked and more. Now it was time to finish it. Can we still move? He asked. Yes, sir. Engines are intact. Good. Plotted a course directly into the center of the formation. All hands, this is the captain. It has been my privilege to serve with you. Send a final transmission to Earth. Tell them we got 54 of them. Tell them it was worth it. Transmitted the message. Then she smiled at, ready when you are, sir. Pushed the throttle to maximum. The Defiant accelerated toward the densest concentration of enemy ships. Vessels tried to move out of the way, but they were packed too closely together. The human ship slammed into a battleship and triggered the reactor overload. The explosion was visible from Earth. It lit up the dark side of the moon like a second sun. When the light faded, 31 more warships were gone, torn apart by the reactor's detonation. On Earth in the command center, Admiral watched the transmission end. The room was silent. Every officer had witnessed the sacrifice. Some were crying, others stood in shocked silence. 54 for 15, said quietly. Captain said it was worth it. He was right. Get me a line to all military commanders. Tell them what happened here. Tell them this is how humans fight. Tell them to be ready. On the flagship, Supreme Overlord Thane stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. He had sent 500 ships to destroy a small outpost. He had expected 0 casualties. Instead, he had lost 85 warships. The humans had not run. They had not surrendered. They had fought like cornered animals, and they had made his forces pay in blood. For the first time in his long military career, Thane felt something he had not experienced in decades. He felt doubt. He looked at his tactical officer, a veteran of 20 campaigns. Analysis, Thane demanded. The tactical officer's voice was shaken. Supreme Overlord, the humans did not fight to win. They fought to inflict maximum casualties. Every ship that was damaged chose to ram our vessels rather than retreat. They were smiling in the combat footage. They were smiling as they died. Thane sat back in his command chair. He had conquered 47 worlds. He had seen species beg for mercy. He had seen them try to bargain. He had seen them fight in desperation. But he had never seen anything like this. These humans were insane. They were willing to die, and they were happy about it as long as they took his ships with them. He had 12,000 warships when he arrived at Earth. Now he had 11,915, and the real battle had not even started yet. For the first time, Supreme Overlord Thane wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. Supreme Overlord Thane decided that mercy had failed. The humans had rejected his generous offer. They had destroyed 85 of his ships in a pointless display of defiance. Now he would show them what real war looked like. He ordered the full invasion of Earth's solar system. 8,000 warships moved forward in a massive wave, targeting every human installation from the asteroid belt to Mars. They expected to find military bases and organized defense fleets. Instead, they found something far worse. They found angry humans with improvised weapons and absolutely no fear of death. The first indication that something was wrong came when the forward elements of the fleet reached the asteroid belt. The asteroids should have been easy to clear. They were just rocks floating in space, home to a few mining operations. Instead, every single asteroid became a weapon. Human engineers had spent the past 4 days turning mining equipment into military hardware. Engineer had been working in the asteroid belt for 10 years. He knew every rock, every mining station, every piece of equipment. When the war started, he did not run. He got to work. He took drilling lasers meant for breaking apart rock and modified them into cutting beams. He took explosive charges meant for mining and turned them into proximity mines. He took cargo haulers and loaded them with scrap metal to use as shrapnel bombs. "They think we are defenseless," said to his team as they watched the ships approach. "Let us show them what human creativity looks like." The warships entered the asteroid field in formation. Immediately, hidden weapons opened fire. Drilling lasers cut through shields and hulls. Proximity mines detonated, shredding vessels with high-velocity fragments. Entire asteroids, rigged with explosives, were pushed into the paths of enemy ships using mining equipment. The impacts were devastating. The fleet scattered, trying to avoid the chaos. That was exactly what the humans wanted. Once the enemy ships broke formation, smaller human vessels emerged from hiding. They were civilian craft, cargo haulers, even personal yachts, all modified with weapons. They swarmed the ships like angry insects, firing at close range where the enemy's larger weapons could not target them effectively. Pilot flew a cargo hauler called the Lucky Dragon. It was 50 years old, barely held together with spare parts and prayer. but had loaded its cargo bay with antimatter fuel cells stolen from a research station. He guided his ship directly at a capital ship, dodging defensive fire with maneuvers that should have torn his old hauler apart. "This is to any humans listening," he broadcast. "Remember my name. I am about to make history." He crashed the Lucky Dragon directly into the capital ship's main hangar bay. The antimatter detonated. The explosion tore the vessel in half and damaged 6 nearby ships. Died instantly, but his name was recorded in Earth's archives as a hero. On Mars, the situation was equally chaotic. They sent a ground force to establish a base. They expected to face soldiers with rifles. Instead, they encountered Dr. She had been working on medical nanobots designed to repair human tissue at the cellular level. When the invasion started, she made a small modification to her design. Now the nanobots attacked alien tissue instead of repairing it. The boarding parties that entered the Mars research station began dying within minutes. Their bodies broke down from the inside as weaponized nanobots consumed their cellular structure. The screams of the dying aliens were broadcast back to the fleet. After the third boarding party was wiped out, they stopped trying to take the station intact. They simply destroyed it from orbit. Doctor died in the bombardment, but her weapon design was already being replicated at other human facilities. They were winning. They were destroying human installations. They were killing thousands of people, but it was costing them. Every battle was a nightmare. Every victory came with casualties that made no strategic sense. The humans did not fight to win. They fought to hurt the enemy as much as possible before dying. Captain commanded a destroyer called the Phoenix. Her ship was damaged, barely functional, with only 40 crew members left alive. She had orders to retreat to Earth for repairs. Instead, she saw an opportunity. A command carrier, the vessel that coordinated fleet operations for an entire sector, was passing nearby. "Helmsman, plot a ramming course," ordered. "Captain, we could make it back to Earth," her executive officer protested. "We could repair the ship and fight another day." Shook her head. "That carrier coordinates 2,000 enemy ships. If we destroy it, we cripple their entire formation. 40 human lives for a chance to save thousands more. It is not even a question." She opened a channel to the entire fleet, both human and alien. "This is Captain of the Earth Destroyer Phoenix. We have been damaged. We cannot continue fighting, but we can make sure our deaths matter. To any humans listening, remember us. To thee, remember this. You wanted Earth. Come and take it." The Phoenix accelerated to maximum speed. Ships tried to intercept, but its crew used their remaining weapons to clear a path. The destroyer slammed into the command carrier at full velocity. The impact punched through the carrier's shields and armor, penetrating deep into its core. When the Phoenix's reactor detonated, it killed 8,000 personnel and turned the massive carrier into debris. Supreme Overlord Thane watched the battle unfold from his flagship. The tactical displays showed his forces advancing on all fronts. They were destroying human assets. They were securing territory. By every military standard, he was winning. But the casualty reports told a different story. "Status," Thane demanded. His tactical officer checked the data. "Supreme Overlord, we have secured the asteroid belt. Mars is under our control. Jupiter's moons have been cleared, but we have lost 1,200 warships. The humans are using suicide tactics. Every engagement results in heavy casualties." 1,200 ships. Thane had started with 12,000. The battle at the moon had cost him 85. Now, in just 3 weeks, he had lost more than 1,200 more. He still had over 10,000 warships. He still had overwhelming superiority, but the humans were not running out of ways to hurt him. "What is Earth's military status?" Thane asked. "They have fewer than 100 operational military vessels remaining," the tactical officer reported. "But they are using civilian ships, cargo haulers, construction equipment, anything that can fly and carry a weapon. Our analysts estimate they have deployed over 2,000 armed civilian craft. Thane stared at the tactical display. 2,000 civilian craft, farmers and merchants and miners, flying ships that were not designed for combat, attacking his professional military fleet. It was insane. It was tactically idiotic, and yet it was working. The humans were bleeding his forces dry. They cannot win, Thane said, more to himself than to his crew. They must know they cannot win. Perhaps victory is not their goal, Supreme Overlord, the tactical officer said quietly. Perhaps they only want to make us pay as much as possible. On Earth, Admiral reviewed the same battle reports from the opposite perspective. He had lost thousands of ships and millions of lives. His forces were being pushed back on every front. But he was also seeing the casualty reports from the fleet. Over 1,300 enemy warships destroyed. At this rate, if humans could keep fighting for just a few more weeks, they might actually bleed the alien fleet down to manageable numbers. We are hurting them, Commander said, reading his thoughts. Every human who dies takes enemy ships with them. It is a terrible math, but it is math that favors us in the long run. If we can survive that long, said, the still have 10,000 ships. We have less than 100 military vessels. We need something to change the momentum. We need to make them afraid. How do you make an enemy with 10,000 warships afraid? Asked. Smiled. It was a cold smile, the smile of a man who had just had a dangerous idea. We stop defending. We start hunting. Admiral's plan was simple in concept but brutal in execution. The fleet was spread across the solar system, occupying territory and consolidating their hold. They had supply lines stretching back to their empire. They had reinforcement convoys arriving every few days. They had support vessels carrying fuel, ammunition, and spare parts. Those vessels were lightly defended because they were supposed to be safe behind the front lines. Admiral was about to teach them that there were no safe areas when fighting humans. He gathered his remaining faster-than-light capable ships. There were only 32 of them left, small frigates designed for reconnaissance and fast strikes. He divided them into 8 hunter groups of 4 ships each. Each group was given a single mission: find supply convoys and destroy them. Do not engage warships. Do not hold territory. Just hunt, kill, and disappear. Commander led Hunter Group 1. He was 30 years old, had been in the military for 12 years, and had a reputation for aggressive tactics. His ship, the Ghost, was fast and equipped with advanced stealth systems. His crew were all volunteers who understood this mission might be one way. Remember, told them before they launched, you are not trying to win battles. You are trying to make them afraid. Every supply ship you destroy is food that does not reach their troops. Every reinforcement convoy you eliminate is soldiers who never reach the front line. Make them look over their shoulders. Make them realize that nowhere is safe. Hunter Group 1 jumped into hyperspace. They emerged 3 days later near a known supply route, far from Earth, deep in what should have been secure territory. Sensors detected exactly what they were looking for: a convoy of 15 supply vessels escorted by 4 warships. Under normal circumstances, 4 warships would be more than enough protection. But these were not normal circumstances. Target the escorts first, ordered. Fast and brutal. We want to be gone before they can call for help. The 4 human ships dropped out of stealth at close range. They fired missiles and rail guns simultaneously, targeting the escort ship's engines and communication arrays. 2 escorts exploded immediately. The 3rd managed to get its shields up but was torn apart by concentrated fire. The 4th escort tried to run. It did not make it far. With the escorts destroyed, the supply ships were defenseless. Civilian vessels, slow and unarmed, felt a moment of hesitation. These were not warriors. They were support crew, mechanics, and cargo handlers. But then he remembered the cities on Earth burning from orbital bombardment. He remembered the millions of humans who had died in the past 3 weeks. Destroy them all, he ordered. The supply convoy was annihilated in under 5 minutes. Hunter Group 1 jumped back into hyperspace before reinforcements could arrive. They left behind nothing but debris and corpses. Over the next 2 weeks, all 8 hunter groups struck similar targets. They destroyed supply convoys, attacked fuel depots, ambushed reinforcement fleets. They operated far from Earth, hitting targets that the thought were secure. The aliens began diverting warships from the front line to protect their supply routes. That meant fewer ships attacking Earth. But the psychological impact was even more important than the strategic one. The fleet, which had felt invincible, now felt vulnerable. They had to escort every supply run with heavy warships. They had to establish defensive perimeters around every depot. They were the ones with 10,000 ships, but they were starting to act like prey being hunted. On Earth, the fight continued. Technician had been working at a signals intelligence facility when the war started. Her job was monitoring communications and trying to understand alien technology. She was very good at her job. In fact, she was so good that 3 weeks into the war, she did something incredible. She cracked the command encryption. "Admiral, you need to see this," said, practically running into his office. She was young, barely out of university, and her hands shook with excitement. "I broke their command codes. We can listen to their communications, all of them." Stared at her. "You broke their encryption in 3 weeks." Nodded. "They used a quantum encryption system, but it had a flaw in the key distribution protocol. I exploited it. We can hear everything they are saying to each other." This changed everything. Immediately assembled his best intelligence analysts. They began monitoring communications, learning about troop movements, supply problems, and most importantly, morale issues. What they discovered was encouraging. The soldiers were scared. They were tired. Many of them were questioning why they were dying for a planet that was supposed to be an easy conquest. Admiral decided to make their morale even worse. He ordered the creation of psychological warfare broadcasts. Human technicians began transmitting messages directly to ships. The messages contained footage from the battles, videos of humans laughing as they fought, recordings of pilots singing as they flew suicide missions, images of soldiers charging enemy positions with smiles on their faces. The broadcasts were designed to terrify. They showed an enemy that did not fear death, an enemy that enjoyed fighting, an enemy that would never, ever surrender. The messages ended with the same question in the language: "How many more of your friends will die before you go home?" The impact was immediate. Communications showed confusion and fear. Their soldiers did not understand humans. They did not understand why anyone would smile while dying. Some crew members began refusing combat missions. Others started questioning their commanders openly. Supreme Overlord Thane tried to suppress the broadcasts, but the humans had cracked his encryption. Every time he sent orders to block the transmissions, human technicians would find a workaround within hours. His fleet was drowning in propaganda that portrayed humans as smiling death machines. The final blow to morale came from an unexpected source. Colonel Minyu was a Marine commander who specialized in boarding actions. His unit consisted of 50 of Earth's best soldiers, trained in close-quarters combat and zero-gravity warfare. When intelligence revealed the location of Thane's flagship, Minyu volunteered for an impossible mission. He would lead a boarding party directly onto the enemy command ship. "This is suicide," Admiral said bluntly when Minyu presented the plan. "Yes, sir," Minyu agreed. "But it will also scare them more than anything else we have done. If we can board their flagship, if we can get close to their supreme commander, they will realize that nowhere is safe, not even their most powerful warship." Considered this, Minyu was right. The strategic value of the mission was minimal, but the psychological impact would be enormous. "You will all die," said quietly. "We know," Minyu replied, "but we will die making them understand what it means to fight humans." The boarding party launched in a captured shuttle. They used cracked codes to bypass security checks. They docked with the flagship while it was coordinating a major offensive against Earth's orbital defenses. 50 human Marines stormed into a ship carrying 30,000 alien crew members. They fought their way through corridor after corridor. They used grenades, rifles, and sometimes just knives when ammunition ran out. Security forces responded in overwhelming numbers, but the humans were faster, more aggressive, and utterly fearless. They sang military songs as they fought. They left graffiti on the walls in Korean. Earth sends its regards. Minyu's team made it within 200 meters of the bridge before being cornered. They were outnumbered 100-1, wounded, out of ammunition. Minyu opened a final broadcast on all channels. "This is Colonel Minyu of Earth Marines. We are about to die, but we wanted to know something. Your flagship is not safe. Your Supreme Commander is not safe. If 50 humans can get this close, imagine what we will do when you finally push us too far. Earth does not forgive. Earth does not forget. And Earth will make you pay for every human life you have taken." The security forces killed all 50 Marines, but the damage was done. Every crew member on that ship now knew that humans had breached their flagship. They had walked through their corridors. They had nearly reached the bridge. The most secure ship in the fleet had been violated by a tiny boarding party that should never have gotten past the outer decks. Supreme Overlord Thane sat in his command chair and reviewed the casualty reports. He had lost over 3,000 warships. His supply lines were under constant attack. His crew's morale was collapsing. Earth's cities were in ruins, but the humans were still fighting. They were still killing his soldiers. They were still finding new and horrible ways to hurt his fleet. For the first time, Thane wondered if this war was winnable. 6 weeks into the war, Supreme Overlord Thane faced a problem he had never encountered in 40 years of military service. He was winning, but he was losing. His forces controlled Mars, the asteroid belt, and most of Earth's orbital space. Human military capabilities had been reduced to fewer than 70 operational warships. By every traditional measure, Earth should have surrendered weeks ago. Instead, the humans had intensified their resistance. They were fighting from the ruins of their cities. They were using weapons that should not work but somehow did. And worst of all, they were still smiling. Combat footage showed human soldiers laughing as they charged positions. It was unnatural. It was disturbing. It was breaking his fleet's morale. Thane's commanders were questioning the campaign openly now. Fleet Admiral had requested a private meeting 3 days ago. He had been blunt. "Supreme Overlord, we began this campaign with 12,000 warships. We now have 7,000 operational vessels. We have lost 5,000 ships fighting a species that had 200 when we arrived. The humans are not winning, but they are bleeding us to death." Thane had dismissed concerns. The casualties were acceptable. Victory was still assured. But now, sitting alone in his quarters reviewing the reports, Thane was not so certain. His supply lines were under constant attack by human raiding parties. 3 more convoys had been destroyed just yesterday. His soldiers were exhausted and afraid, and the humans showed no signs of stopping. He made a decision. He would break their spirit once and for all. He would show them that continued resistance was pointless. He would conduct orbital bombardment of Earth's major population centers, not military targets, cities, homes, schools. He would kill millions in a single day and show the survivors that they had no hope. "Prepare bombardment fleet," Thane ordered. "Target coordinates for New York, London, Mumbai, Tokyo, Seoul, and 20 other major cities. Maximum firepower. I want those cities erased from existence." On Earth, Admiral received intelligence about the planned bombardment from intercepted communications. He had minutes to respond. He called an emergency meeting with his command staff. "They are going to kill millions of civilians," Commander said, her face pale. "We have no way to stop an orbital bombardment of that scale." Looked at the wall display showing Earth from space, his planet, his home. In 6 weeks of war, it had been battered and broken. Major cities were already damaged from earlier attacks. Billions of people were living in shelters and refugee camps, and now Thane was going to make it worse. "We cannot stop the bombardment," agreed, "but we can make him regret giving the order." He turned to his weapons officer. "Status on Operation Last Dawn." The weapons officer checked his terminal. "All systems ready, sir. Every remaining nuclear weapon, antimatter device, and kinetic strike weapon is loaded and targeted. We have been waiting for your authorization." Operation Last Dawn was Earth's final contingency plan. It had been prepared in the first week of the war. Every weapon humanity possessed, every missile and bomb and kinetic impactor, all targeted at the fleet in orbit. It would not destroy the entire enemy fleet, but it would hurt them badly, and it would send a message: if you kill our cities, we will make you pay in blood. "Execute Operation Last Dawn," ordered. "Launch everything." Across Earth, missile silos opened. Submarines surfaced and fired their payloads. Orbital weapons platforms activated for the first time. Thousands of warheads, some conventional, some nuclear, some antimatter, all launched simultaneously at the fleet. The synchronized strike was timed to arrive at the exact moment the bombardment fleet was in position over Earth cities. The fleet's sensors detected the launch. Alarms screamed across every ship. Point defense systems activated, shooting down incoming missiles. But there were too many. Thousands of warheads swarmed the fleet like angry hornets. Nuclear explosions lit up the sky. Antimatter detonations tore through shields and armor. Kinetic impactors moving at orbital velocity punched through hulls like paper. The bombardment fleet, 200 ships strong, was at the center of the attack. They were preparing to fire on defenseless cities below. Instead, they found themselves fighting for survival against a swarm of desperate human weapons. Ships exploded. Crews died. The carefully planned bombardment turned into chaos. When the attack ended 30 minutes later, Supreme Overlord Thane reviewed the damage in stunned silence. 2,100 warships destroyed or heavily damaged. The bombardment fleet had been decimated. Only 70 ships survived intact. The orbital strike he had planned to break human morale had instead resulted in the worst single day of casualties in military history. On Earth, the casualties were also severe. Several cities had been hit before the bombardment was disrupted. Millions died in nuclear fire and kinetic impacts. But the bombardment had not been completed. Most cities survived. And every human who witnessed the battle saw the same thing: their species had struck back. They had hurt the enemy badly. They had proven that even in their darkest hour, humans could still bite. In the ruins of Seoul, Lieutenant coordinated rescue efforts while simultaneously organizing the surviving defense forces. She had been transferred back to Earth after surviving the moon base battle. Now she walked through streets filled with debris and bodies. Around her, civilians dug through rubble looking for survivors. Soldiers prepared defensive positions. Nobody was crying. Nobody was giving up. They were humans, and humans did not quit. "Status report," called into her communicator. "East Sector is secure," came the reply. "We have 5,000 soldiers and about 200 operational vehicles. Ammunition is limited, but we are not out yet." "Good," said. "If they come down here, we make them fight for every building, every street, every room." On the flagship, mutiny was brewing. Fleet Admiral met with a dozen other senior commanders in a secure room. They spoke quietly, carefully, aware that their conversation was treason. "Supreme Overlord Thane has lost his mind," said bluntly. "He ordered a bombardment that cost us 2,000 ships. We started with 12,000. We now have less than 5,000 operational vessels. At this rate, the entire fleet will be destroyed before Earth surrenders." "What do you propose?" another commander asked. "We convince him to withdraw," said. "We tell him the truth. Earth cannot be conquered. Not by us. Not at this cost. We have lost 7,000 ships fighting a species that was supposed to capitulate in days. Every military principle says we should cut our losses and leave." "He will refuse," the other commander said. "He has never retreated from any battle." "Then we must make him see reason," replied. But before they could approach Thane, another intercepted human transmission changed everything. Researcher had been working in a secret facility in the mountains. His project had been classified, known to only a few people. It was called the Scorched Earth Protocol. Broadcast a message on all frequencies, including those used by the fleet. His message was simple and terrifying. "This is Doctor of Earth Strategic Command. I wanted to know something. We have spent the past 6 weeks preparing a final contingency. If Earth falls, if we lose this war, we will make sure nobody wins. We have seeded our solar system with autonomous weapons platforms, self-replicating mines, and biological agents designed to kill any species that tries to occupy human territory. If you destroy us, you will inherit nothing but a graveyard. And we have equipped fast ships with these same weapons. They will jump to hyperspace with coordinates for the... If Earth dies, your planet dies with us. You wanted war, we will give you war. But if we burn, we will burn together." It was a bluff, mostly. The weapons platforms existed, but they were not as numerous or as effective as claimed. The biological agents were theoretical. The ships aimed at were real, but only 4 of them existed. But Thane did not know that. All he knew was that humanity had just threatened to turn their solar system into a death trap and launch retaliatory strikes against his home planet. Thane sat in his command chair and tried to calculate the odds. Could the humans actually do what they threatened? After 6 weeks of watching humans weaponize everything from mining equipment to nanobots, he thought they probably could. The question was whether it was worth finding out. He requested a private channel to Admiral. The human commander appeared on his screen, standing in what looked like an underground bunker. He looked tired. His uniform was dirty, but his eyes were still sharp, still defiant. "You threaten my," Thane said. "Do you really think you can strike across interstellar space?" "Do you want to find out?" replied calmly. "You came here with 12,000 warships to make a surrender. You have lost over 7,000 ships and we are still fighting. We have poisoned our solar system. We have aimed weapons at your planet. And we are still here, still fighting, still killing your soldiers. So I will ask you a question, Supreme Overlord. How many more ships are you willing to lose? How many more of your people have to die before you admit that humans cannot be conquered?" Thane was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice tired. "What do you want?" "Leave," said simply. "Take your fleet and go home. Leave Earth alone. Leave our solar system. Never come back. Do that and we will not launch our retaliatory strikes. Refuse, and we will fight until every last human is dead and we will take all of you with us." Thane looked at his casualty reports one more time. 7,200 ships lost. Nearly 400,000 soldiers dead. And the humans were still fighting. They would keep fighting until they were extinct, and they might actually have the weapons to strike his. "Cease fire," Thane said quietly. "We will withdraw." The fleet began jumping to hyperspace. It took 6 hours for all remaining ships to leave Earth's solar system. When the last alien vessel disappeared, Admiral sat down for the first time in days. Around him, his command staff was silent. They had won. Somehow, impossibly, they had won. Commander checked the final count. "Sir, confirmed. All enemy vessels have left the solar system. We have 73 operational military vessels remaining. Approximately 2,000 armed civilian craft still functional." Nodded slowly. 73 ships. They had started with 200, and they had forced an enemy with 12,000 warships to retreat. It should have been impossible, but humans did not care about impossible. 10 years later, Commander stood at the memorial wall in Seoul. The wall contained 14 million names, every human who died defending Earth. Behind her, the rebuilt city sparkled in the sunlight. Earth had recovered. Humanity had recovered, and they had learned something important about themselves. A young military cadet approached her. "Commander, was it worth it? 14 million dead." Looked at the names on the wall. She thought about Captain and his squadron at the moon. She thought about Doctor and her weaponized nanobots. She thought about Colonel Minu and his Marines boarding the enemy flagship. She thought about every human who had smiled as they died, who had fought when surrender would have been easier. "They wanted us to kneel," said quietly. "They brought 12,000 warships and expected us to surrender, but humans do not kneel. We taught them that. We taught the entire galaxy that. And because we did, Earth is free, so yes, it was worth it." She pointed at the sky, where human exploration vessels now traveled freely through space. Every alien species they encountered knew the story of Earth's defense. They knew that humans would fight to extinction rather than surrender. They knew that conquering Earth would cost more than any invasion force could pay. "They wanted to scare us," said to the young cadet. "Instead, we became the ones everyone else is afraid of. That is the legacy of the 14 million. They died so that humanity would never have to kneel to anyone ever again." The cadet nodded, understanding. In the sky above, a human warship passed overhead, its hull painted with the words that had become humanity's motto: "We declined."